All right. Aloha mai kako and welcome everybody. It is 9 a.m. so we're going to start as people keep trickling into the webinar. So we're pleased to have you join us for the 24 years of Maui Sea Turtle Conservation with Hawaii Wildlife Fund webinar. This webinar is hosted by the Hawaiian Islands Humpback Whale National Marine Sanctuary and is a great way to learn about some of the exploration, research, and discoveries occurring in our sanctuary. So during the presentation, all attendees will be in listen-only mode. You are welcome to type questions for the presenter into the questions box in the bottom of the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. This is the same area you can let us know about any technical issues you may be having. We will be monitoring incoming questions and technical issues and will respond to them as soon as we can. Also, in your control panel, you will find PDF handouts available for you to view and download. We are recording this session and will house it on our website in the future. And all attendees will get an email notifying when it is finally posted. All right, so I am Cindy Among-Sarao, one of your hosts for this webinar. I serve as the Sanctuary Advisory Council and Sanctuary Ocean Count Coordinator with the Hawaiian Islands Humpback Whale National Marine Sanctuary, and I am based on the island of Oahu. My fellow host for today is Alan Tom, the Superintendent of Hawaiian Islands Humpback Whale National Marine Sanctuary, and he is based on the island of Maui. So the NOAA Office of National Marine Sanctuaries serves as the trustee for a network of underwater parks encompassing more than 600,000 square miles of marine and Great Lakes waters from Washington State to the Florida Keys and from Lake Huron to American Samoa. The network includes a system of 14 national marine sanctuaries and Papahanaumokuakea and Rose Atoll Marine National Monuments. Here you will see a map of the different sanctuaries and 2 monuments. So the NOAA Office of National Marine Sanctuaries is mandated to conduct research, monitoring, resource protection, education, outreach, and of course, management of America's underwater treasures to preserve them for future generations. And national marine sanctuaries are living classrooms where people can see, touch, and learn about the nation's Great Lakes and ocean treasures. So now I'm going to pass it on to Alan Tom, who will be providing more information on our Hawaiian Islands Humpback Whale National Marine Sanctuary.
Okay, so thank you, Cindy. Good morning. I don't know if you can see me with my head cut off like that. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. If you are having audio problems, I was looking at the chat earlier, just put it in the chat box and Cindy and I will try to help you throughout the talk. Again, my name's Alan Tom. I want to welcome you to today's talk. We are doing this as part of a much larger national web series. And I think this is the last one that we're doing for this year, but we will be doing several more next year. We have some speakers lined up already, and I'll tell you about that at the end of our talk. That means you have to stick around for the entire talk. This talk is being recorded, and it will be closed captioned, and as Cindy said, will go up online. You all will get an email notifying you that this webinar has become available. So I just want to talk about our place that we are talking about or learning about today, and it's the Hawaiian Islands Humpback Whale National Marine Sanctuary. Cindy, if I can have the next slide. I believe it is a slide of the boundary of the sanctuary. So you can see in the red dotted area around the islands of Kauai, Oahu, and parts of Maui is the sanctuary boundary, and that is the area which we do our work. And in the next slide, you can actually see the 4-island area of Maui County. That's called the Maui Nui area. That is where our headquarters is located. And there's the island of Maui. Thank you, Cindy, for pointing that out. This is also the island where our speaker is from, Hannah Bernard, and we also have part of our boundary off of the Big Island. So this is, again, where we work, where we do our research, and where we have a lot of our partnerships with other organizations. Next slide, please. And I believe, okay, so we had a ocean users workshop at the earlier part of this month. I believe it was November 6th, and we went over all the various federal rules and state rules protecting our marine mammals and sea turtles in Hawaiian waters. So this booklet should be available to you in your attach or your handout section. But the main thing I want to point out here is the 24-hour hotline, 1-888-256-9840. If you are in Hawaii and you're out on the water, or actually if you're on the beach and you see somebody harassing any of these protected animals, please call this number, and you are thus reporting this incident to the various authorities. So next slide. We also, because we work with a variety of different groups to get our information out, much like the Hawaii Wildlife Fund that Hannah Bernard runs, we partner with different agencies. And this is a tide calendar that is available to you that you can download. I know if you've been calling in to our talks, this is about the 5th time you've heard me plug our calendar, but it is available, and unfortunately is only for the tides in and around the Hawaiian Islands. So if you're calling in from Peru like Diana is, probably won't help you too much. But this is just yet another example of the products we have at the Sanctuary that is made available to the public for their use. Next slide. Okay, we get into the meat of our discussion today, and that is that I get to introduce our speaker, Ms. Hannah Bernard. And, you know, I have known Hannah now going on 27 years, and I'm proud to call her a friend because she really is a conservationist. And those of you who live on Maui, if you hear the name Hannah Bernard, you know that it's a project that she's involved with, which has important standing. She was one of the early, if not one of the few early supporters of the National Marine Sanctuary here in Hawaii at a time when we didn't have a lot of friends, when people just were, you know, so up in arms about having a National Marine Sanctuary here in Hawaii. Hannah stood tall and in public and announced her support of the sanctuary. She is the executive director of the Hawaii Wildlife Fund, and at the end of her presentation, she'll talk about her latest venture that we are partnering with her on that should happen up in the Lahaina side of West Maui, which will be happening next year. But Hannah is, like I said, a leader in conservation here in the islands. She was one of the founding members of our Sanctuary Advisory Council. She sits on the NOAA Fisheries recovery teams. She's a teacher at the University of Hawaii Maui campus. The list goes on and on. So rather than me continue to exude all the things that she is to us and has been to our program, I am just going to invite Hannah to turn her camera on and her microphone on so that she can talk about her work with sea turtles here on the island. I should say that she doesn't just do sea turtles, but for today's talk, she is going to talk about sea turtles. So Hannah, welcome, and go ahead and take it away.
Mahalo, thank you so much. What a nice introduction. Thank you, Alan. What a pleasure to get to be with you today, and aloha to everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining us today, and it very much is us, because this is a program, this Hawaii Wildlife Fund Sea Turtle Conservation Program, that I am very much just the figurehead of. I have been running Hawaii Wildlife Fund since our inception 24 years ago, and we'll be 25 this spring. I'm proud to say we have a silver anniversary coming up. But this is very much a collaborative, community-based project. It's based deep in the foundation of education and research. And this program would not be possible without the involvement of many partners, including U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, NOAA, the National Marine Fisheries Service, Pacific Island Fisheries Science Center, and the Pacific Island Regional Office, DLNR, Department of Aquatic Resources. So I'm just thrilled to get to share with you folks today the great work that the many people who've contributed to this program have done. It's been very much a shared community, well-loved program. But before I get too much further into it, I'll just share a moment about Hawaii Wildlife Fund. We do have headquarters on 2 islands, Hawaii Island and Maui. Our headquarters are home offices. Mine in Paia, and Megan Lamson heads up our Hawaii Island side of the house from Kealakekua area. Bill Gilmartin, our co-founder, has sort of withdrawn to the big island of the US mainland, but he still comes and works with us quite often and is with us every year, a lot. So let's focus directly on the turtles of interest. So I'm going to start with a question for everybody. And the question is, which sea turtles of the world can be seen in Hawaii's waters?
All right, aloha everyone. So you guys should see on your screen a quick poll that Hannah just asked the question. So we're gonna give you guys some time to select all that apply for the species of sea turtles that you can find in Hawaiian waters. So we'll wait till about 70 to 80% of attendees have voted, and then we'll share the results.
I think the poll just fell off the page.
It'll show up again, Hannah.
Okay.
All right, we're at 71% voted. So if everyone can continue to get their votes in, give it a few more seconds. Oh, all right. So I'm going to share the results now, Hannah, so you should be able to see it. One moment. All right.
All right. Very good. That's right. So, were you going to say something, Cindy?
Nope, you take it away.
All right. So yes, indeed, we have leatherbacks can be seen in our waters. Very rarely. Green turtles much more commonly. And by the way, this nice card, Sea Turtles of the World and their IUCN status, produced by Divers for Turtles, also has their typical weight and length, and some information about how to tell them apart right there below each of the turtles. Loggerheads can be seen occasionally. I've even seen one myself in our nearshore waters. Of course, our hawksbill, which we'll be focusing a lot of our time on today, our very rare, critically endangered hawksbill sea turtle, and olive ridleys. And then I want you to notice in this panel to the right, bottom row, it has some characters that we use to identify sea turtles that will become important for you to pay attention to if you don't already know how we identify sea turtle species. Which brings me to my next poll question. How do you tell the difference between our 2 most commonly seen turtles?
All right, everyone, so you'll see your second poll question on the screen, and this one is just selecting one answer. So we'll give some time for folks to submit their answers. How can you tell the difference between green and hawksbill sea turtles? And we'll give it a few more time. We have around 60% of attendees voting or voted so far. Okay, a few more seconds, folks, to get your votes in. Okay, as it starts to trickle down, we are now going to close the poll. All right, so now everyone can see the results. And Hannah, if you want to explain what the answer was.
Good. All of the above. That is the correct answer. And it's good to see what a high rate of knowledge our viewers have on this subject, because this is one of our most important goals of our program, is to help people understand these are the two most commonly seen species in our nearshore waters of Hawaii, although one species is much rarer than the other. So we've got our green turtle and our hawksbill sea turtle. And if you look closely at these photos, you'll see that there are some differences. They're a little bit subtle for many people. In the field, I see that there are a lot of people who have a hard time identifying the difference, particularly for younger animals. And so we really want to make sure people understand and see the difference, because our hawksbills are endangered. Our green sea turtles are threatened on the endangered species list, a distinct population segment here in Hawaii, but they are still protected by law. However, our hawksbills are very precious, so rare in Hawaii, also known as ea, our hawksbill, or honu ea, and honu for the green. I'd like to give credit to our former GLNR Department of Aquatic Resources biologist from Molokai, Bill Puleloa, who wanted to be sure that we held on to this traditional name of ea and don't just call hawksbills honu ea. So drilling down one more time, we're going to see that we have these characters that we can look at to tell the difference between these two species, with the hawksbill's most obvious character being that very pointed beak, and that's usually somewhat visible, pretty much it's noticeable, and then those four prefrontal scales between the eyes compared with two for the greens, which has a much flatter face. And then the serrated edges of the carapace are not necessarily as obvious. So at the bottom of the photo here, you'll see the difference between the green and the hawksbill. And for the adults, the adult female hawksbills in particular that we watch over when we do our work, quite often the edges are not as serrated anymore, they're worn down. But these features in the face are very distinguishable. But we don't want to encourage people to try and get so close that you bother them to see them. There's another character difference that's important to us with our Dawn Patrol, one of the programs we run to watch over sea turtles during their nesting on Maui, and that is the tracks they leave in the sand. So hawksbills have this alternating gait, alternating one flipper than the other, and the greens, two flippers at the same time, symmetrical tracks, very distinctive looking and different. So we see a lot more greens crawling on the beach and basking now, and we're getting a lot of people thinking that those are nesting turtle tracks, but especially we're much more interested in the hawksbill tracks because they don't come up on shore to bask. So once again, just wanting to emphasize the importance of the focus of our work on both the nesting and foraging grounds of Maui hawksbill and green sea turtles. We do have both for both of these species here on Maui. And then we are part of the Hawaiian Hawksbills Research Network that encompasses state and federal agencies and those few NGOs, nonprofit, HawaiiHawksbills.org and Hawaii Wildlife Fund, who are working to help study and take care of and protect our green sea turtles, and especially our hawksbills. So here's the beauty shot of an in-water photo of a hawksbill. And as you can see, this turtle's carapace is not super obvious, the serrated edges for this animal, but that beak is distinctive. It's a bit more pointed. You can almost see the four prefrontal scales between the eyes showing up that way too. And so this photo is an important member, this animal, of a photo ID project that Cheryl King initiated in the early 2000s, and it's very easy access. So you can see it online at highhawksbills.org, and we are part of a network that's encouraging people to submit photos of hawksbills to this online site that Cheryl King runs. Again, not getting so close to hawksbills that you cause them to leave or cause them to pay attention to you or to be disturbed, giving them at least 10 to 15 feet or 3 to 5 meters. So I'm going to back up, go back to the beginning of why Hawaii Wildlife Fund is focused on these two species, especially hawksbills, which will be probably the main focus of the rest of my talk. And it was the result of the second death of a hawksbill turtle laden with eggs. She was killed on the beach, on the road next to the beach at Kealia Pond, the highway there. And back in '96, there was no fence along that road, and there is now. But back then, sea turtles could cross that road. Why did turtles go to the other side? Well, that beach is severely eroded, and they are nesting habitat for hawksbills. They prefer the vegetation line and get right up into the vegetation line to nest. So this having been the second time that a female was killed on the highway, Fish and Wildlife Service invited us to help watch over these turtles. Craig Rowland at the time was with Fish and Wildlife Service, hooked us up with Kathy Smith, who was then the refuge manager here on the right, and we started doing volunteer patrols at Kealia and I managed 150 people in the summer of '96 to walk the beach at Kealia to make sure that no more females got out onto that road and got killed by a car. And then the following year, we worked together with Fish and Wildlife Service to erect the dune fence. So the fence was actually designed to help accrete more sand, to help make the habitat healthier again for turtle nesting and for other dune life. And as it turns out, this fence became very successful at accreting sand and protecting turtles. So without this fence, the turtle that came up on the road here, came on the beach here, excuse me, you can see the tracks, would or could have gotten right up through the vegetation line and onto the highway like the ones that were killed in '93 and '96. So very important, this fence, and we hope that our community understands that. Now we have a plastic fence that's made of recycled plastic that Fish and Wildlife Service manages. We helped mend the fence, 18 years worth of mending fences on that beach with the dune fencing together with Fish and Wildlife Service. And now they have taken over the kuleana of managing and repairing this fence with only occasional help from us, because this type of fence requires technical support to replace. Not quite as easy as throwing up a slat fence, but it's very important in preventing hawksbill sea turtles from getting on the highway. So again, big picture orientation, what do we do and why do we do it? The bottom line is that we collaborate. We conduct research and education, and predominantly we're mostly focused on protection. It's one of our main objectives on the beaches. So we work under the direction of Fish and Wildlife Service and DLNR, NOAA, the Science Center, and the regional office. As I said, here's a picture of our contact, Irene Kynan-Kelly, in between Cheryl King here and myself. And she helped us work with NOAA and manage a grant for us for 6 years. And then Skippy Howe over here, our most important partner, because he's on the beach with us, excavating the nests every single summer. And a regular hero of our times, Skippy Howe, one of our treasures, Department of Aquatic Resources biologist. And then some of the other partners down below, we have Fish and Wildlife Service representatives, Courtney and Will, and Luke Sundquist and Magdalena Karitariitua, both running both our green sea turtle and our hawksbill turtle program. We've had extraordinary team leaders. Suzanne Kanja over here on the right started the hawksbill program together with myself and Bill Gilmartin in '96. And then Cheryl King ran the program for 16 years, and Luke Sundquist for 3 seasons after that. up behind Suzanne is Rick Long, who managed the Dawn Patrol for Fish and Wildlife Service for years before now it's the responsibility of Hawaii Wildlife Fund. I got to watch the wonderful presentation for the 20-year anniversary of Papahanao Mokuakea Marine National Monument's establishment, and it reminded me of the importance of honoring our kupuna islands and our kupuna in life, who have essentially laid the foundation for us to do the work we do. And so I would be remiss if I didn't mention those upon whose shoulders we stand: George Balaz, former NOAA fishery scientist, and Bill Gilmartin, our co-founder, and also a former National Marine Fisheries scientist. And there in the photo, George is in one of his favorite places in the northwestern Hawaiian Islands, now known as Papahanao Mokuakea Marine National Monument. It's really our islands, part of our archipelago. And then below we have Bill Gilmartin in the center in the photo with Suzanne Kanja, who was at that time the director of the Nature Conservancy, and Sam Gahn are gifting Bill with this beautiful staff that Sam carved to acknowledge his lifetime of service, particularly focused on monk seal recovery. So these two built the sea turtle program for 15 years. They worked together up in the monument at the time called Northwestern Hawaiian Islands. Bill ran the endangered species program, and George launched the sea turtle research program up there. Together, George and Bill launched our satellite tracking component of our project. And so in '97, we outfitted our first sea turtle that we were involved with George Balaz, and on the Big Island of Hawaii. And we also attached radio transmitters. So on the left, those of you who are viewing this presentation from Latin America, you may, if you could zoom in, you'd recognize Jeff Mangle, who started with us here in the early 2000s, and Bill beside him on the lava flow on Big Island. And on the right, myself and Cheryl King in our work. We are blessed to have gotten to work with and continue to work with National Marine Fisheries Service Pacific Island Fisheries Science Center, and with many of the individuals within the program, but especially Alexander Gauss. So Alex came to us in 2015 and started working with us here on Maui, and we actually got to expand our satellite transmitter attachments from nesting turtles to also foraging turtles in water. And this turtle on the left, this transmitter that Alex came over to help us attach to that turtle after she nested, was tracked from her nesting beach at Palauea and into her inner nesting interval off Ma'alaya, where she would rest between nests, and then when she left us, to her foraging grounds off the northwest side Honolua zone of Maui. We've continued that work this summer. We've gotten to, again, tag a hawksbill sea turtle with the help of Alex, who sent us a transmitter so we could attach it to a female, the single hawksbill female who nested on Maui this summer. We named Mama Hua for the moon phase when we tagged her, which means egg-shaped moon. And the zone here where she nested, the Kawilipoa Beach area, and then you can see her track around Haleakala to her foraging grounds in Kahului Bay. This was I last pulled this off the website that I'll make available for you folks to access on November 24th. And then I just thought it would be fun to show you this screenshot I pulled from that website that Alex has been loading our historical tracking data, and you can see some of the hawksbill sea turtles that have been tagged and had satellite transmitters attached. And I believe this link down here is being loaded, or already has been loaded, onto the end of the show or the handouts or the links section of this presentation, so you can access it yourselves and you can see what's happening with our hawksbill sea turtles. Not all of them that have been instrumented are on this database yet, but quite a few of them are. And the main take-home message I'd like to emphasize is that in general, our hawksbill sea turtles do not migrate away. Their foraging and nesting grounds are the Hawaiian Islands, the main Hawaiian Islands. So our work focuses specifically on monitoring, tagging, and protection. As I said before, we've gotten empowered by endangered species research permits from Fish and Wildlife Service and DLNR to do this work. So, and NOAA, Pacific Island Regional Office, helps support our work as well. We actually have a program that is largely supported by individual donors, businesses, and foundations now, and we could not do this work without their help. So we're both running the Dawn Patrol, looking for the tracks early in the season to set up the rest of the season's calendar, and watching over nests and translocating nests if they're in danger of tidal inundation, like this one here. And then we're assisting our DLNR counterpart, Skippy Howe, to do nest excavations and release of hatchlings trapped in nests. But really, we're powered by our community, by volunteers. Without the help of all of our colleagues, the interns, the youth groups, the students, the donors, and the spirit of aloha, there's no possible way we could have done the work that we've done for the last 24 years. It very much is community-based, this project. We have several thousand volunteers who have helped us over the years. And each summer, we usually have over 100 who are active at any one time. And on the left here, we have a great shot of one of our typical volunteer sort of committed individuals in the form of Amy Limo, a photographer, and she's standing with Magdalena, our Green Turtle Project Manager and Marine Debris Recovery Coordinator. And they have just gone in the water to disentangle a juvenile green turtle that had been entangled in an illegal lay net. And then we watched over as the lay net was pulled from the water after being left all night, which is against the law. And DoCare, our enforcement agents, came to investigate the case and stop the individual involved. And immediately after, during the process of trying to intervene with the net entanglement, part of our other team of long-term volunteers, and a special shout out to Richard Nelson here, who's been volunteering for us for a decade, putting in as many camping hours as myself and Cheryl King have. The nest erupted. So had that net still been in the water, it could have possibly even entangled some of these hatchlings. Our volunteers are extraordinarily important, not just in watching over nests, but here at the top photo, we had a situation in 2018, and we've had the last 3 seasons in a row, we've had a situation where every season nests are threatened by tidal inundation. And the rising sea level coupled with the king tides, coupled with summer storm events, have caused these very high surf and tidal events where nests like this one here was in danger of being inundated. And so we translocate nests in such precarious situations if it's within the first hours of laying or if it's in imminent danger of complete erosion. But in the case like this, where we might have a little bit of time, our consultation with our agency partners resulted in us deciding to barricade and put this trench around the nest, which our volunteers contributed to. So a little bit more about our programs and what we do specifically. Again, as I said, we are now coordinating the Dawn Patrol, which is essential for the success of our Finding the Nests, walking the beaches of Maui. We have 9 beaches that we patrolled this past summer. Typically about 6 nesting beaches are are monitored by us in any one year. We have hawksbills in red and green turtle nesting sites in green on this picture. And the ones on East Maui we don't monitor, and we don't have the resources to do beach patrols, but we hope to change that this coming summer if we are blessed with some funding to expand and support some of our Hana volunteers who already are part of our team to help us work over there. But we also are regularly patrolling these beaches, these South Maui beaches from Maui all the way down here to Oniloa, or Big Beach, for hawksbill turtles. Green turtles also nest on the north shore of Maui, and a particular famous individual nests on the west side. But I won't be going into detail about green turtle nests and our involvement with them today. I simply don't have time. That's another story, and a phenomenal story to tell about, especially this past summer, working with green turtle nests and translocating nests to save them from being eroded out with the help of our colleagues with the Maui Ocean Center Marine Institute. So I'm just going to show you a few shots of some of our typical and most important beaches. I'm not going to show you all the beaches that we've patrolled or patrol, but most important in particular, the Ma'alaia Kealia Beach, as I mentioned earlier, where those 2 hawksbills were killed. And this is Haycraft Beach Park at Ma'alaia, and the Pond Mouth Outlet. Pay attention to this orange arrow over here, because it picks up again over here, and then we walk all the way down to Sugar Beach. This is a 2.5-mile stretch of beach. And again, severely eroded habitat, not the best for sea turtles to nest on, and can be dangerous if they get through that fence that keeps them off the highway. But very important nesting beach in terms of frequency of use. Another very important beach, I'm just giving you a few highlights, not all the beaches that we patrol, is Kauililipoa. Kauililipoa in central Kihei is a little bit more urbanized area. And as you can see, it's in the heart of central Kihei. And then one of our most successful places for sea turtles to nest, for hawksbills to nest, the Oniloa or State Park at McKenna Beach and Pu'uolai. We did have green nesting turtles on Maui on the North Shore, and I'm just adding a couple of shots of some of the beaches we've monitored this past summer, Hamakuapoko and Baldwin and Paia Bay. And I want to acknowledge those amazing volunteers who helped us monitor all these nests and walk these beaches all summer and into the fall. So this past summer, these are the locations for our nests in Kihei in this zone, and the green turtles on the North Shore of Maui. And again, I'll be saving the green turtle story for another day. So typical incubation, approximately 60 days. That's about the average for hawksbills on Maui. And if the turtles survive the incubation without problems within the nest and begin to hatch out, then we also watch over them when they hatch out. I just wanted to also put this shot here to remind me to share about a link that we also have at the end of this presentation, some research that has been conducted on vocalizations that hatchlings are making and incubating eggs are making in the nest, because this was a phenomenal opportunity for us to share with our volunteers who are watching over the nest, to have that connection with the hatchlings as they're growing, and understanding that they can even hear us. Human voices can penetrate into the nest cavity. Watching over the nest is a long and involved process, and typically we have people around the clock all day and all night watching over the nest as it gets close to eruption. And ideally, the hatchlings will queue on the lighter sky horizon, either at sunset or with the starlight or with moonlight, like these hatchlings are doing right down here at the bottom of this shot by Ben Caswell, one of our other amazing photographer volunteers. However, we do have some problems with lighting, and if there's lighting on the Mauka side or behind the nest, then it can cause the hatchlings to to go the wrong way and not go to the ocean. And we've been working on reducing lighting issues of beaches on Maui for more than a decade, and in fact had to take it to the next level with protecting our turtles all over Maui and even our seabirds in the filing of a lawsuit with our co-plaintiffs, Conservation Council of Hawaii, Earth Justice, our defenders, against the County of Maui, because in 2018, these LED streetlights were being installed, nearly 5,000 of them all over the island, and the installation started before an environmental assessment had been conducted. So if hatchlings don't go to the ocean and go toward lights instead, which has happened in the past here on Maui, they can get run over by cars. Other threats that we protect the hatchlings from with our Nest Watch crew are native ghost crab and alien predators like this mongoose right here on top of a nest, which will dig in and eat the eggs. The ghost crabs will get the hatchlings as they're headed to the water. And then, as I already talked about, we have to protect the nests, sometimes from tidal inundation. Another major challenge to our hawksbill hatchlings here on Maui, some nests in particular are threatened with native and alien grasses growing around and into the nest, can trap the hatchlings. Ideally, we get the mass emergence that looks like this, with 60 to 100 or more hatchlings coming out all at once, which is what they're best adapted and have the greatest success if more of them come out at once. But typically, and unfortunately, more often we'll see one or just a few coming out at a time. And again, this is partly because of degraded nesting habitat in some of our beaches, which I'll show you in a moment. And then after first emergence or main emergence, we start the clock for our excavation for rescuing of trapped hatchlings, particularly on those beaches that are severely impacted by the alien vegetation, which would perish in the nest if we didn't intervene. So we work with Skippy and we help excavate the nest. Here we have Luke Sundquist on the right and Amanda Lloyd. Mandy is our newest project assistant, and she is helping Skippy with an excavation as one of our great volunteer photographers looks on. I'm just gonna a little video. Skippy measuring hatchlings at an excavation, and Magda assisting, and myself assisting in the excavation and the release. This was just this past summer. So Mandy Lloyd made that video for us, which we find extremely important in the age of COVID. We couldn't have as many people at the nest as we've had in the past, or to participate in the excavations to protect everybody's health. And so we would make videos available online so our volunteers could see the excavations and the hatchlings emerging, which is what so many of them are wanting to see. Another big challenge with our sea turtles, particularly on Maui, the opala, or the trash in the nests. And we typically find, once we're excavating the nest, that there has been beach trash incorporated or marine debris. Sometimes it's, sadly, more often it's from us, but it can be from arriving from high seas. The marine debris recovery program that we started was partly as a response to protecting nesting habitat for green turtles. And we have removed more than 360 tons between Hawaii Island and Maui in 20 years of work. But well, that's another story. I'm going to focus pretty tightly on our hawksbill nesting program, so we have some time for questions, and just give you an overview of where we are to date. Luke Sundquist put together some graphs from our season. So we were able to pull information together. Season just ended the weekend after Thanksgiving, so we scrambled to pull together some visuals for you folks. We've got more than 103 nests that we've monitored and protected, tagged 12 hawksbills and satellite tracked 8 of them to their foraging grounds. That's just what we have done here. That doesn't include Hawaii Island or what Alex Gallus has done it with other programs. That's just what our team has helped with. And we've helped more than 10,000 hatchlings make it safely to the ocean. This summer, as I said, more than 100 volunteers were active, giving more than 3,000 hours patrolling our beaches, watching over nests. Typically, they spend between 100 and 200 hours per person. Some of these volunteers, our top volunteers, will spend that much time on the beach in the hot sun or camping all night. We had 5 hawksbill nests with 900 eggs produced and 450 hatchlings emerging, which gives us about a 50% hatchling success this summer. So we added that to the 96, all the way back to 96 data to look at some of the long-term trends. I want to call your attention to the beaches on the left. They're color-coded. So this purple area here, these are Oniloa, or Big Beach State Park in McKenna. These are hatchling successes over time with 3 turtles. These are the turtle names on the left. And then Palauea, another one of our important nesting beaches, Kalepolepo, Kaulilipoa, and Kealia, with having some 0 success. So obviously some very important differences between our nesting beaches and a mean annual hatchling success over the years. Highly variable, but we have only 1 or 2 hawksbills nesting per year. So we have a very small sample size, super rare events and super rare turtles. But we are able to detect some trends and a slight increase in clutch size with carapace length of the female, and then the mean number of eggs by clutch in terms of order laid, beginning to look like a slight decrease by the end of the season, by the 5th clutch. And the mean incubation time to first emergence by nesting beach, big differences between Kaulilipoa and Little and Big Beach, Oniloa or State Park at McKenna. These beaches are very different, with one, as I showed you in the earlier slides, being a wide, white sandy beach, and Kaulilipoa being inundated and overgrown with native and mostly native grasses, because it's a state beach reserve that is being managed for recovery of native plants as well as turtles. And then the big picture of our hawksbills, how many females and how many nests per year, and it's small, as you can see. Typically, it averages about 1 female per year, and the nests, typically the average is about 4, with as many as 12 in a particular year. Very small number of hawksbills on Maui. And I'm going to quickly jump over to our green turtle project, because I see I've almost run out of time and I want to leave time for questions. But we do have another important program that volunteers can participate in, and we would love people who are on this webinar who want to volunteer to help protect turtles, to help us. We can do it ourselves by behaving with respect around green turtles, which are increasing in numbers on our beaches, and they're basking. They're coming up on the beaches to rest, to warm up, to avoid predators, to conserve energy, more and more. And one of our most important beaches for this is Ho'okipa. And we kept that name secret for many years because we didn't want to encourage people to go there. But since that's not a secret anymore, and that beach location has gone viral, we want people to understand that we have been protecting and watching over the green turtles there since 2008, when Cheryl King initiated a photo ID project, which we still have students working on today. We documented more than 700 people a day coming to this beach just to view the turtles, with up to 184 green turtles basking at one time. Yeah, a lot. So volunteers, interns, team member Magdalena Peri'itua over here are essential for our ability to help educate people at this site. We also are participants in the Stranding Network through the Maui Ocean Center Marine Institute. And we have initiated a couple of additional projects there to scan for pit tags on green turtles and photo ID, as I said, together with a couple of former students from Italy. Two quick updates about where we're going. We have a beautiful sign that has just been finished to be placed on the area of Hamakua Coast on Big Island, Hawaii Island. And our team over there, headed up by Megan Lamson and Bill, conceived of this sign, and Patrick Ching, our renowned and good friend, marine and wildlife artist of Hawaii, designed the sign, and it was funded by a grant from Hawaii County. And so we're trying to help educate the world about the presence of hawksbills. We're not as secret about where they are as we used to be, because if people don't know, they can't help. And we also have produced curriculum. One of our newest projects is Hawksbill Sea Turtle Curriculum, which we've produced and is available online at this site. And also this link will be in the handouts at the end of the presentation. And so it's a 7th and 8th grade level curriculum, and narrated by one of our team members on Hawaii Island, Callie Barnes. So you can access that there. And finally, upcoming, we have a big project in the works. As Alan mentioned, we are going to be opening a Wildlife Discovery Center, Hawaii Wildlife Discovery Center at Whalers Village in Ka'anapali. And here's the center. My cursor is on the building in the background, the Makai side of the lot, and that top floor is going to be half of which, 5,000 square feet, will be the Discovery Center. So we'll have another great outlet for teaching about our sea turtles in collaboration with our Humpback Whale Sanctuary and all of our partners, and the Whalers Village, Brookfield Properties sponsoring it. It will also be decked out with beautiful murals by Patrick Ching, both inside and outside. And finally, I'll just bounce through and give folks time for questions, how you can help sea turtles. Our friends at diversforturtles.com published this list of steps you can take to help protect turtles. Go ahead and visit toorare2wear.org to learn more about how to avoid buying turtle shell products. Clean a beach, reduce your plastic, dive turtle friendly, and take care of the reef. You can donate to their Sea Turtle Project, or you can donate to ours. All turtle projects are very labor intensive. We really need all the help we can get all over the world. Locally, sign up to volunteer with us, clean up your beaches and reefs, and learn, educate, vote, take care of what you love. Follow us, join us in our social media to learn more about events that we're hosting and how you can help us. And you can go to these links to learn more. And mahalo for your time.
Mahalo, Hannah. All right, so we probably have time for just one question, but folks, feel free to submit more questions into the question box, and we can send those questions over to Hannah, and we will share them with you all via email that you registered with for this webinar. But for that one question, Hannah, it is, where'd it go? Okay, one moment. Okay, could you let us know the population size of Hawaii hawksbill and green sea turtles?
So our best estimate of the population size, and that is absolutely a research project that is continuing and underway with our colleagues at Pacific Island Fisheries Science Center. It's estimated there may be around 100 nesting females in our Hawaiian hawksbill population, probably the smallest, most isolated sea turtle population in the world, but maybe the most important in the Central Pacific. the green turtle population is increasing, although it is the future is very uncertain because of the loss of the most important nesting grounds up in the Papahanaumokuakea Marine Monument. With Hurricane Walaka in 2018, we lost significant nesting habitat at Tern Island, but the population of green turtles, the last estimate that I had heard was around close to 1,000 nesting per season. And again, this is pre-Walaka, when the habitat up there was healthy. But I defer to my colleagues on the population estimates. Those are definitely challenging numbers, and we're still very much working on that answer.
Awesome. Thank you, Hannah. And we did get a few other questions, but we'll save them and we'll send it to Hannah and we'll get all the answers back to you folks, hopefully within a week or so. But now I'm going to pass it on to Alan Tom, who will finish off our webinar.
Okay, so again, I want to thank Hannah Bernard for that wonderful talk. I forgot to mention she was named one of Maui's most influential people who made a difference. And I think for those of you who are on the webinar, you see why she was awarded that title. And Hannah, you were such a hit based on all the questions I'm seeing in the chat box. I'm going to invite you back, maybe next fall. You could talk about dolphins or some of the other work you do, because I know this is just the tip of the iceberg on what you do. And so let me just wrap up, folks. Don't hang up just yet. I want to mention that all of these webinars we're doing, including this one today, has been recorded. As soon as I get around to close captioning it, it will get onto the webinar archive that you see listed here. And you will all be getting, those of you who registered, getting an email notification that the webinar is available. So all the information that Hannah just mentioned will be in this webinar. Next slide. And I would say, as we are waiting for the next slide, okay, you will also be getting a certificate of attendance. So folks that attended this webinar will get this certificate, hopefully within the next 24 hours. We will be sending this out. I believe this also counts as one credit informational webinar series training. So you get, so 1 contact hour of professional development is also available to you from attending this webinar. Next slide, please. And we do want you to take a survey, which is attached to this webinar. So please let us know your thoughts about future topics, what you did or didn't like about the webinar. I couldn't hear, it was too fast, whatever it might be. Please let us know, because we are working to make these webinars more useful for people. Next slide. And I will also say that we do have some webinars coming up. In January, we have Jane Au. She will talk about the Hawaiian religious understandings of the ocean, the importance of the ocean to Native Hawaiians. And then followed by that, in February, we have Maka'ala Ka'amoana. She is also a Sanctuary Advisory Council member, talking about a place on Kauai, Hanalei. And she'll talk about the watershed, about that area. We did just add another webinar on March 24th. Dr. Heather Ward will talk about KA, or cephalopods, or octopi. So please join us for those. Again, I want to thank Hannah. It's so interesting that humans have been responsible for the extinction and threatened status of a lot of animals. And so it's great to see humans now making a difference in bringing those animals back from extinction. So people like Hannah Bernard, thank you so much. And again, thank you to all of you for joining us, because your interest is going to help this species recover. And if you're interested, Hawaii Wildlife Fund, go to that homepage. You can talk to Hannah directly. I know many of you have asked, how can you volunteer and participate? Go to the Hawaii Wildlife Fund homepage, and that's where you will find Ms. Bernard. So again, thank you all for attending, and thank you, Hannah. And we look forward to future workshops. Bye-bye.
Aloha.